Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to your live phone-in show, the first time here on our YouTube channel. You may have seen other channels do it. We thought we'd bring it to this show. Of course, Watford have officially been confirmed as relegated from the Premier League. We're playing the 2022-23 season in the Championship. I think we all knew it was coming. We just mentioned off air that it's finally been confirmed. We've kind of finally been put out of our misery. And we can look ahead to next season. But we still have 3 more games to play of this Premier League campaign. So we're going to be taking all of your calls. A bit of housekeeping before we do get into it. In the live chat, you can see a link. It says click the link to join the show and have your say. We've already got one listener who's phoned in to have their say. If you want to get involved, you don't need to turn your camera on. You can literally just use audio and get involved on the live stream today. To join me, as always, is Mr. Sam Ucko. Sam, how are you feeling? How are you feeling after officially being relegated from the Premier League?
As I said to you off air just now, it's probably one of the easiest relegations to take. I think the writing's been on the wall since the last 20 minutes of the Aston Villa game on the first day of the season, followed by that display away at Brighton in that first away game. And I think pretty much the feeling has been there ever since that, this is going to be a really difficult challenge to stay in the Premier League. Obviously, we've had those sort of brief moments of hope and sort of optimism, such as those, the win against Man United, away at Everton, away at Aston Villa, Southampton. And you start looking at the table thinking, could we? But it's been impossible to, string a run of form together. And I think the inconsistency is really where this Watford side have struggled this season. So, look, I'm all right. I think I was much more upset after the last relegation, considering we took it to the last day. But now I think, we've got 3 games left just to, sit back, enjoy, and hopefully see a couple of the younger players, have a go.
Completely agree with you, Sam. From my perspective, I think the 1920 relegation, because we had that, obviously lockdown came in full swing, and we had that few months before we actually played another game again after that Palace away defeat. It felt like I was kind of going through the fixtures when they got announced and when they were going to be played. Oh, we can get a point here, we can get 3 points here. And there was like a possibility that we could stay up. And it hurt even more, really, I think, the fact that it went down to the final day of the season.
And we were very close on that last day as well. We only lost 3-2. And I clearly remember as well, there was a chance, I think Danny Welbeck ran to the front post and tried to backheel it, and it went straight to Emi Martinez in goal. But I think that's why, because, I mean, it's a good point that you make about sort of looking at the fixture list and thinking, we can get a point here, we can get a point here, we can get a point here. I look at the fixture list this season, and, with the exception of, for example, Norwich at home, which we lost 3-0 anyway, I thought we're losing this every single week.
Agreed.
And I think that's why it's been so much easier to take, because, as I say, the writing's been on the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, before we just bring in our first caller, can you just describe that away end at the weekend? There was a Duxbury out banner that was displayed from a couple of supporters. What was the atmosphere like in that away end for people who didn't go? And yeah, can you describe what it felt like at full time?
Pleasantly, it was one of my favourite away games pretty much ever, rather than the whole season. I thought Watford fans were brilliant. I'm not sure if you saw that comment as well, replying to Watford's tweet from a couple of Crystal Palace fans saying that we were the best fans they've had at Selhurst Park this season.
Yeah, great.
It was a really, really good atmosphere. While there were Duxbury out, there was one Duxbury out banner. It was never toxic in the away end. And, aside from a couple of boos at full time, I think, everyone was sort of there in unison. And aside from thinking of the players on the pitch, I think everyone was sort of just there thinking, you know what, we're all in this together. Let's have a good time. And the pre-match concourse was brilliant. Had a few beers with some mates beforehand, and it was really good sort of having chats and hearing people's thoughts on what's gone wrong this season. And it'll be good to have people's views today as well. But surprisingly, I thought it could get a bit toxic, but I thought it was a really good away end the other day.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if it had gone to the final day. Let's just say it was Crystal Palace away, if it had been any different. But very interesting how the context can change it. Anyway, we'll bring in our first caller. Ellie is waiting in the wings. Let's get her involved. Ellie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all good. Thank you very much for coming onto the show. You're officially our first caller here on the channel.
Oh, thanks.
Take it away. What's your thoughts on this season? What's your thoughts on Watford at the moment? How are you feeling?
Dire. All round. It's just great. And do you know what, though? It's like my nephew plays in the academy.
Okay.
And the feeling in the academy is very similar to what it is in the first team. No, like the the coaches in the academy just they're just exhausted, if I'm being honest. Everybody has got a face like a wet weekend in Scarborough. Nobody is excited. Nobody is. Everyone's just lost their passion and drive. And I just think that what the club needs to do, I agree with Duxbury out. I do. I'm sorry.
Why is that, Ellie? Why have you taken?
Because he couldn't manage. Because he can't do it. It's evident he can't do it. He is responsible for the day-to-day, the Monday, the everyday running of the club. And if you're not bringing through your youth, then you ain't got a place, mate. You need to go. He needs to.
It's interesting. So, Sam, sorry, Ellie, just to bring Sam in here, because from what we've read in Ellen Leventhal's article, as Ellie mentioned, Duxbury's obviously heavily involved with the football operations, but we all know, from reading that article, that Gino has the final say. So, in terms of this frustration aimed at the board, who is to blame? Is it a collective? Is it Duxbury individually? What's your?
I think that I work in HR as like my day job. In my HR professional opinion, it's a collective. Okay. Every single member of that board has got a duty of care to the club, to the people in it, and to the fans. And I cannot believe Roy Hodgson didn't even come over, and neither did the players on Saturday. I just think that's an absolute disgrace.
Sam, take on that.
I mean, it's an interesting one, because I have recently become quite vocal with Duxbury out. My thoughts on it. I do think he has to go, particularly after the way that those who attended the supporters committee. We're not going to go into it again, but the way we were thrown under the bus, and I'm convinced that was Scott Duxbury thinking he told us too much. So since then, I have been quite anti-Scott Duxbury, but at the same time, I've had a look over the last couple of years, and I feel like there always has been a scapegoat, and Gino's always had someone sort of in the firing line, whether it's Felipe Giraldi, whether it's, Kike Flores second time round, the manager, the players, and in this case, Scott Duxbury. It never the blame never seems to lie at Gino's door. Now, for me, say that I'm looking too much in the past. Gino's got too much credit in the bank for me to want him out. He saved our football club and has given us ultimately 5 years in the Premier League and an FA Cup final and another promotion last season. That doesn't mean that Gino's exempt from criticism. And I think something does have to change. And I think a real sign of intent to change things would be to get rid of someone who's high up in the football club. Now, he's not going to get rid of Giaretta because he already got rid of Filippo Giraldi. I think that person who could, might have to bite the bullet is Scott Duxbury.
Ellie, just one last question before we get another caller on. What needs to change for next season to see Watford back to their best and back getting a little bit of stability at the club?
We need passion. We need our youth to come through. The under-23s, the under-18s are all winning their matches, so they need to be given their opportunities, and the Championship is the perfect opportunity for them because you're playing with like the likes of Blackburn Rovers. Have you seen what League Two are doing? Like the clubs in League Two, the playoffs are just mad. Like Sunderland potentially coming back up, and everything else, and for the Championship playoffs as well. I just think the Championship gives those the young guns a really good opportunity. They need to be seen as like a family, if you know what I mean. They need to have that connection. They need to not, let one slip. Ben Foster, I think will retire. I think he's retiring from what he put out the other day. I just think if you get through your youth and you invest heavily in them, they are what makes your club successful. And I just believe that it needs a complete overhaul. I'd put Tom Cleverley in a coaching position and retire him. He is an absolute loose cannon. That man
Ellie,
has missed more passes and more balls this season than you and I have had hot dinners.
I'll tell you what, Ellie, I mean, that's a good note to end on. Thank you so much for being on.
Welcome.
We really appreciate you coming on, and have a good rest of your weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
I can say though, because I completely agree with Ellie regarding the academy. What was said in one of the meetings was the fact that the club are hoping that next season a right back will be coming through. I think a centre mid is coming through and a striker is coming through from the academy, who supposedly will have a big role in the first team. They want to get Richard Johnson more involved as well. So that was something said to us, and whether it does happen remains to be seen.
Yeah, really, really good call there from Ellie. Thank you so much for coming on. Some interesting comments coming in the comment section. Some people are agreeing with Ellie, but there's Lewis who said, "I don't think the academy is good enough at the minute." It's an interesting one on that, because obviously Watford tried to reform the academy by bringing Richard Johnson back into the mix and kind of shape it in a different way. I think we all know though, Sam, that young players need to be coming through at Watford, right? We need to have a call. I mean, one player who hasn't come through the academy but scouted as a young player, Matty Pollock, who's gone out on loan to Cheltenham, smashed it. I think he won Young Player of the Season. Spoke so well on Inside the Hive, and if you haven't watched that, make sure you do go and give it a watch. He spoke so well for a guy who's like me and Sam's age. So he's definitely one to look out for, and and as he said, he's got a burning desire to play for Watford, and that's the type of player, right, Sam, that we need to be bringing through at the club.
Yeah. And this is where the change of culture needs to come in, though, because for me, looking at Matty Pollock screams Ben Wilmot for me in terms of something that would just sort of fizzle out with a promising potential. I think, and I see Adam put in the chat over here, give Pollock the armband next season. I think in a way he's sort of seen a gap in the market there in terms of Watford fans saying there's a lack of leaders, and I think he can sort of sense in there through what he said on Inside the Hive that there's a good chance in there to really stamp his authority on the squad and take up a leadership role. So I really hope it works out for Matty Pollock and doesn't fizzle out like it has for other players coming through.
Just put the link in the live chat. Thank you to everyone who's watching at the moment. We're going to try and get as many of you on as possible. We've got a WD18 regular waiting in the wings. But before we get to him, we're going to bring on Hornet for life. Hornet, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on. And it's our first one, and you're the second person here on the live. What would you like to say, mate? What have you made of this season? I know it hasn't been great, but what have you taken away from it?
I've taken that we need to trust our managers, and we just need to give them that a little bit more time and trust the youth, because
100%.
We've clearly shown that going for experience hasn't worked. So we might as well give the youth a crack.
Completely.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Did you manage to watch our video on Friday?
I did. Yeah.
Who would you want as the manager next season? If you can pick anyone from that list or in the world generally.
I would want Carlos Corberán. I think he's done a very, very good job at Huddersfield this season, and I think he's got very good tactical flexibility, and he can work with any type of player. And I think that's really what we need, because we've got a lot of different styles in our side, and I think having someone like Carlos Corberán would help us out, and I think we could really push for promotion next season.
I think you're absolutely bang on, mate. Absolutely bang on. I think you can see the recruitment with Watford is a little bit confused. As you mentioned, you've got players who are set up for different systems. Then we're rotating the managers. There's not really a continuity and consistency with it. In terms of the current squad, mate, which players do you think we need to be keeping for next season? Who do you think we need to build the team around?
Like Domingos Quina, I think would be good. Pontus Dahlberg as well. Out on loan at the moment, but what a keeper he is! We just need to trust the youth a little bit more. I think, as you said, Matty Pollock as well. I think we should definitely give the youth a go this next year.
And in terms of who might be leaving the club, who do you think we need to be moving on? I know it's a bit of a tough question, but who do you think we need to be moving on to try and get some funds in for next season?
I'm not sure. Maybe Kiko. Okay. I don't really think he's done too much this season, and I think we need to trust the youth and trust that they fight for the badge every game.
Would you try and keep Sarr if you could? Would you keep Sarr?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't keep Sarr. I think if we could get maybe 30-40 million, I'd take it, so we could reinvest in the team. I think there's much important positions in the side that need to be strengthened, and one player only wins your matches, and team sort of wins the championships, and that togetherness between the squad is needed next season. And they need to get the recruitment right in the top end of the club. And I think if we manage to do that, then we'll do well next season.
100%. Well said, mate. I didn't catch your name in the end. What's your name, buddy?
I'm Noah.
Noah, you've got to come back on again if we do one next week. Are you going to come back on? You've been brilliant.
I'll try. Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Legend. Thank you so much for coming on, Noah. Take care of yourself, buddy, and have a great week. We're going to move on to another call about top man highlight of this season. Take care, mate.
Take care.
Right, what superb!
He is. We've been looking for an Elliot Murray replacement. I think he could do that.
Elliot Murray, yeah. What man? If you watch this, Noah, top man. Well said, mate. Some really good points in there. Some great calls. Right, we're going to move on to someone who's been waiting in the wings for a while. I think it's Hornet Shane. Is it Shane? Shane, are you there? Is he there?
It is. Can you guys hear me?
Shano, did you catch Noah's call there? Oh, can you hear us? We can hear you, mate.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Oh, that's good. No, I was just
saying, did you catch any of Noah's call there?
No, that's fine. I can't hear you guys. No, that's okay. The reason I say that is because I'm actually in a pub watching the League One playoffs. So I wasn't too sure if you guys could hear any background noise or anything. But
real football man.
No, it's well, it's first of all, shout out to Noah. That was a brilliant call. And there's probably been the most kind of I don't know, mate. Look, listen, I was Sam and I were both there on Saturday. It's been a difficult couple of days, I guess. The whole relegation. I think for me, it kind of sunk in quite early doors, really, on this season. You contrast that with 2019-20, and the whole no fans in the stadium. The players had a lot more fight. I felt a couple of seasons ago, we took it to the wire. This season, we would have been very lucky to have taken it to the wire, and ultimately, we paid for it in our poor performances. I think we all saw it, didn't we, at the weekend? The general reaction to us going down was one of, well, they sort of deserved it. Well, it was always coming kind of thing. And I felt like a couple of seasons ago, it wasn't really like that. So that's kind of how I feel, to be honest with you. I don't feel gutted. I don't feel heartbroken. I don't feel all that upset. I don't feel like crying. I feel very, very unemotional about it. It's just like, yeah, whatever, it's coming. Yeah, whatever, it's happened now. We kind of have to look to next season and everything, and it's a real worry. I think I said to you earlier on today, Jacob. I'm actually quite worried about this summer because we've got to get a lot of things right. A lot of things have to go our way this summer, and I just don't know if I don't know if whoever we bring in, I don't know if the board are actually going to back them. This is a huge summer for us. We've got to get this right. If I'm being very honest with you, I think our expectations for next season, I think I've seen a few people say we'll be up there next season. I think that all depends on how we recruit. The Championship's a tough division. We saw that. All right, we got promoted. We got our record points tally and all that last time out, but there were uncertain moments, right, in that season. We all remember that 1 or 2 game period, the start of the year, where Cisco could well have gone.
Commentary
went in that season as well. We went through a very tough period of results and all. Yeah, exactly. And it's a very worrying time. We've got three games left. Yeah, it's. I cannot stress to you both how quickly I want this to end.
Shano, just to jump in there, just wanted to ask Sam, and Shay makes a great point there in terms of this summer. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens at Watford. I think arguably it's one of the most defining in modern history of this football club in terms of what we need to do in terms of bringing a new manager and clearing out quite a bit of the squad. How confident are you, Sam, that that will be executed to the way you want it to be executed and the way other fans want it to be executed?
Look, I think something I've realised is this squad is rotten to the core, to be honest with you.
In what way?
I think there's a lack of bottle in there. There's a lack of personalities in there. And there's a lack of leadership in there. Now, it's something completely unrealistic to say that, we're going to rip up the squad and start again and sell 20 players. I think it's going to be a case of, getting rid of 5 or 6 players is first of all is a real statement that no one is safe in this squad and people have to start working. And it's about bringing in players not necessarily full of quality, because we do need quality to get out of the Championship, but this one plays with a bit of personality, people to impose themselves on the game, people who, in the words of Roy Keane, when things are going against you, go and give them a shoulder barge or something like that. And I think too many times this season we've seen the players shy away from the big moments. And I think next season that's the sort of player I'd look for changing. And look, I think it comes from the top. It comes from appointing the right manager, letting the manager bring in who they want as well, and it's all about that for me.
Shano, I'm going to throw this question over to you just before we get some other people on, because they've been waiting. But Tom says, and it's a really interesting one, which is more important, getting the right manager in or putting the right squad together? Really interesting on that.
I think they both go hand in hand, though, right? I mean, the problem with us in previous seasons is that we've just recruited a bunch of players to the club, and it's been down to the manager to kind of sort them out. Really, we can't keep on doing that. We need to bring in a manager. I think it's about trying to find the right fit, bringing players to suit that manager's style. Right. I know that John Eustace has been linked with a role. I think he's definitely a candidate. Somebody who I'm really keen, obviously, with the results yesterday. I'd love to see someone like Ryan Manning come in. I think he's got a defined style, how he wants to play. If he was to come in, for example, you bring in players to suit the manager's style, right? We did that with Marco Silva. We tried our very best to do that, I think, with him. Things clearly didn't work out with that for whatever reason. It's probably the closest that we've kind of tried to get to kind of building kind of something with a manager, but ultimately that didn't work out. But in answer to that question, it's got to be about finding the right manager first. You bring in the manager, you bring in a philosophy. How many times have we seen this season so many pundits saying Watford don't really have a defined style, I don't really know what they're trying to do, etc. We've got to get that right. I think that's the most important thing, first and foremost.
Yeah. Shano, top call. Last comment. Archie Smith says, Shano, I saw you on the stream I was watching at Crystal Palace. If you didn't know, Shane was being broadcasted worldwide on the Premier League.
In the crowd, it's all about.
Shano, just quick summary away.
Fan around the world, anyone watching would pretty quickly. That's how the season was going. So,
top man. As James says, Shano, we'll see you on Tuesday nights. Take care of yourself, mate. We'll speak to you soon.
See you, buddy. Yeah.
See you, mate. Top man, Shano, always great value. Sam, any initial thoughts from those couple of calls?
No, I pretty much agreed with what most people said in there. Obviously, it's good that everyone has differing, opinions, and that's football. But I think the common underlying factor here is, I think the fan base is united that something does need to change. And what change, I think people's perspectives will differ, be it bringing more academy players, get a new captain in, more leadership, change the ownership at the top. But I think we all realise that something does need to change.
Right, next caller. And someone who's actually, someone's been waiting for a while, Kieran. We're going to bring Kieran in. Kieran, can you hear us, mate?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you feeling at the minute with Watford? We'd love to just get your general thoughts or any points you would like to make on the call.
Sure. This season's just been a bit of a blur for me. It's actually been quite pleasant going to matches, expecting literally nothing at all. I was at Villa away just thinking we're going to get battered here, and it was a 1-0 victory out of the blue, and it was just the most incredible day out. But yeah, this has been coming for ages. I'm not surprised at all. From the last caller, there was a comment that said, better player or better managers, what would you rather have? And I think we've got the players, we've got the quality in the squad. I just don't think we're utilising it right. If we chuck half our team into another Premier League squad, I don't think they would look out of place. I think together we're just not functioning as a unit. But sorry, go on.
So, Kieran, to follow up on that, who would be the man to bring in? You say the manager's the what we have to bring in the right man. Who is that? Who is that manager for you?
I mean, the name John Eustace is going around everywhere, and I do like the idea of like a Watford man coming back to manage us. But the only worry I've got about that is the lack of actual head coach or manager experience that he has. He has obviously been around for QPR for a while, but he's never been the top man for the job. So that kind of concerns me. The point I more wanted to make was, regardless of who we brought in, I think we need to be patient with him and just give him the time. Because looking back to the previous season we had in the Championship, we sacked Ivic quite early on, which I still to this day don't necessarily agree with. I look back at the stats and we'd got 39 points in my first 20 games. I'd only lost 2 of the last 11 before we got sacked. And a lot of the fan base seemed to be on his back at that point. And I just wanted to get your views on why that is, and say whichever manager we bring in, we are on 39 points after 20 games. Would you think about sacking him again, or would you want to just stick with him, or what do you feel about that?
Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a really interesting one as well. I do think, the ironic thing with Vladimir Ivic is that, in hindsight, I think he probably would have been the ideal man to bring in this season, wouldn't he? Probably from the start of the season, someone with a defined style of play who we could have built around. Look, it's a really, really, interesting question that, what do we do if, say, John Eustace comes in and we lose the first 5 games? What do we do then when fans start to get on the back? And for me, it's about having a defined playing style. So if I look at someone like Russell Martin, who Swansea haven't had the best season, but it's clear the direction that they are going in. And it's about getting those players to recruit the system. And I think if fans can see quite clearly the direction that we want to go in, and that, yes, it will take some time to get the players in, I don't think there will be, calls for the manager's head. That being said, obviously we don't want to get relegated next season from the Championship for the sake of a manager. But, if I'm giving another example, I look at someone like Pep Guardiola. His first season at Man City, they had Claudio Bravo in goal and I think scraped top 4 by beating us 5-0 on the last day of the season. Famous day, we had Andrea Lefebvre and, 2 goalkeepers on the bench in Walter back. But we can see by with the money that they spent, you could argue that Guardiola should have been sacked after that first season. But it was clear the style of play that Man City wanted, and they kept with the manager. I think if there is a defined style of play from the manager, I think less fans will be on the manager's back, and I think people will be more accepting to give the manager time.
Kieran, one scenario I wanted to throw out to you was, let's just say, would you accept a mid-table finish next season if that meant that we kept the manager and we built a playing style for the following season? Or do you think it's a case of we have to try and go up at the first time of asking?
For me, if that was to happen, I'd like an upper mid-table finish. I'm not going to sit here and say I'd be happy with like a 17th place finish, if you know what I mean. And in that case, I'd want to see the likes of Hungbo and Morris get more game time and just try and build a future, as opposed to just having a bunch of random one-season players for us, using us as a stepping stone to carry on. So if we're building a team and we finish, say, 10th, I would be happy with that, and I'd be happy to stick with the manager for however long.
Great. I've got a question for you, Kieran, just before we let you go. I found it quite interesting how you said not all of these players are bad players, and then they get into other Premier League teams and look out of place. I find that quite interesting because I think this Watford side, with the exception of maybe Norwich, I don't think a lot of these players would get into other Premier League sides, and I think there's a reason why we are where we are in the table. If you want to elaborate on that, I just found it quite an interesting point, to be honest.
I think we are a bad football side. I don't think that's up for debate, but I don't think we're a 22 points in the season sort of football team. We've lost 11 in a row at home, which is unheard of. And I don't think that's because the players we have aren't good enough. Like Dennis, for example, he's got 17 or 16 goal contributions this season, like dragging this Watford team from the depths. It's more the fact that if you ask me, like, what is our identity? How do we play? I don't think we have one. The only thing I can really think about is that Man United game where we won 4-1. We looked like a completely different side. We gelled so well and we pretty much played them off the park. And I don't think a team that gets 22 points in the season, it can have that quality. That is closer to where we should be. I'm not saying we should be top 4 or anything, but we should be able to play at that sort of level. Like playing like that would be like a Wolves or a Leeds on any given day, but we just haven't brought that sort of play to the rest of the season. We just brought it out random sporadic times. And yeah, I think if we had the same squad in the Championship, we'd absolutely tear it up, but that's not going to happen.
Kieran,
yeah.
Kieran, it's been a pleasure having you on, mate. Fantastic call, and a lot of points I think a lot of Watford fans will agree with. And we'd love to get you back on again if you're around. But top man, mate, and thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. Sam, some really interesting stuff there. Just to everyone who's watching live, please do leave a like on the stream. If you enjoy the phone in, we'd love to do these more regularly. If you'd like to see them, subscribe to WD18. Follow us on socials as well at WD18 fans, and let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Just a reminder for anyone who wants to get involved today and get onto the show, the link to join is just at the pinned comment in the live chat. I'll also just post it again in the comment section. It's just there. You just need to click through the links and make sure your mic's on. You don't need to turn on your camera unless you feel like it. Moving on to our next caller, GT Official. Love the name. I think you're on mute, buddy. Can you hear us?
Hi, mate. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. What would you like to say, mate? The floor is yours.
Perfect. This is my first time doing something like this, by the way. So sorry if I stutter or anything.
Oh, mate, no stress. Don't worry.
No, I just thought that was a really good call by Kieran, actually. I do agree with a lot of the points that he was saying. I think it's more of a case we've been mismanaged than the players themselves lacking any technical ability. I think if you look at the recruitment, I think they've done quite well pre-season. Obviously, I mean, hindsight, everybody can see now. Look at the players and know that they're not up to the standard to play in the squad. But I mean, if you look at it on paper, I think they did a good job, to be fair.
What, in terms of recruitment, or do you think it's good enough, mate? Is good enough to stay in this division?
Definitely. I'm in agreement with Kieran. I look at the players. A lot of them could play in other teams at this level. I mean, looking at the recruitment, this is as well on top of the fact that last season we set records defensively in the Championship. They couldn't have gone into this season thinking we need a fresh new back line. 4 new, starting 11 players there at the back.
I've got a question for you, mate. Do you think, because I think it's a question that a lot of people have spoken about, in hindsight, if we had Samir and Kamara for the whole season, do you think things would be any different?
Kamara, definitely. I think he's been such a breath of fresh air bringing him in. I think Messina, whilst we all know he's got a mistake in him. I can't think how many points he's cost us right at the beginning of the season. Samir, I'm a bit 50-50 on whether he's that much better than Kabasele, Ciaralta. I'm not too sure on. I mean, Truce Kong as well. He looks a completely different player to what he did at the beginning of last season, or all the way through last season. To be fair to him.
Yeah, that's the one point, mate, that I find fascinating is how we equaled the best ever defensive record in the Championship. And yes, Ciaralta hasn't played as much as we all would have liked, and I think that's definitely a situation that I still haven't got my head around why he hasn't featured as much as he could have, whether that's injuries or stuff off the pitch. But Sam, how can we go from such a solid defensive back line with the defensive foundations that Vladimir Ivic built to a defence that is just leaking goals for fun, 11 straight home defeats, a Premier League record? How can it go so wrong? Can you put your finger on why that's happened? Is it just at board level? Because as GT Official, I'd call you that, mate, unless you want to tell me your name.
Sorry, my name is George. Go on,
George. Sorry, you want to be called by GT Official. As George says, he thinks that this team on paper is, this team is good enough to stay up. So where has it gone so wrong in that respect? Is it just rotating the managers? Where do you think?
I think there's 2 parts to it. I think first of all, the step up from the Championship to the Premier League has evidently been massive. I thought actually William Truce-Kong would be better having less of the ball at his feet and simply doing defending. But I think sort of the caveat of that, what goes alongside it, is a confidence problem as well. Towards the end of William Truce-Kong sort of running the side, I actually felt a bit sorry for him. I think he looked so sort of, he's someone who cares for the club and he's someone who just looks so gone of confidence. And I think that, we talk about a quality problem. I don't think confidence helps the situation at all. I look at Ciaralta. He hasn't played in, months, weeks now, and, no idea where he's gone. And my biggest problem with it all is that, I like Craig Cathcart, I like Kabasele, I like Femenia, but they're not good enough at this level. And we should have learned. We talk about learning lessons. They weren't good enough 2 years ago. They weren't good enough 3 years ago. Why would they be good enough now?
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting one, and it's something that we really should be addressing next time around.
Yeah, very, very true. George, just wanted to ask you about the summer coming up. As we mentioned a couple of times, it's going to be interesting to see what we do. What do you think needs to change? Who would you be looking to move on? Who would you be looking to keep? And who would you be looking to build this team around?
I definitely think, moving forward, it's got to be the younger lads. I mean, Cleverly, whether he can do a job next year, I'm not too sure. I think this level he's definitely found out. He's got an engine in him. That's about it, to be fair. Obviously, he's got promotion under him. Last time he was in the Championship, he was really leading the squad, I think. So that one's the one I'm 50-50 on. Elsewhere, I mean, looking at it, we've got to try and keep as many players as we can. Obviously, Ismail Sarr, Emmanuel Dennis, they'll all be off. I'll be interested to see how well Okoye does in goal. I'm taking it. I'll leave this one to you. I'm taking it he'll be first choice goalkeeper next season.
I think so. I think if we're assuming that Foster's going to retire from his message yesterday, if Batman looks to probably be moving on, having said that, his statement that he put out suggested that he might be sticking around, but I think that's unlikely. I think Okoye has been brought in to be a number one, George. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, Zinkernagel, whether he comes back, I mean, if Forest go up, there's no chance he's staying at Watford next season. I think he'll throw his toys out the pram there if we decide to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, Tom in the comment section, George, just before you go, mate, Tom will build this team around Culshaw, Hungbo, Zinkernagel, Pedro, Espria, Kalu. Obviously, Espria is going to be joining the club in the summer and bringing a couple more attackers. We have the makings of a decent attack. Do you think that team's good enough in the Championship, that front line, if they were to stay?
Definitely, it would definitely cause teams problems. I mean, Hungbo, whether he can do it at the level. Asprilla, we're yet to see. Kalu, I mean, we've seen him for half an hour this season, but I mean, he looked all right when he come on. He didn't really make too much happen in the final third, but I mean, given who he's against and the attacks we do spring, I mean, he's limited anyway, isn't he, at this level? Pedro, I think, moving forward, I mean, he's been my favourite player since we've got him. I mean, he fights for the badge every single game he plays. I think he needs to start pretty much every game that we can get him to next season. And likewise this season, I thought we played better football when he got brought in under Ranieri.
George, great call. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. We'd love to get you back on again, and take care of yourself, buddy.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers. Right, we've got a special guest to bring on, none other than Burnley fan YouTuber, Mr. Vydra. How's it going, mate?
How you doing, lads? How you doing?
Probably the best fashion choices we've seen on this channel, by the way. I mean, I'm wearing a black shirt and you've got a vintage PSG tee up.
You know what? He probably has the best collection of football shirts I've seen on YouTube.
Me?
Yeah, no, genuinely.
Yeah, Ellis Away Days literally exists, bro. Come on, man. Respect. He's the guy that actually made he's the reason why I bought most of these shirts, to be fair. Blame him.
So good. Mate, great result for you lads at Vicarage last week. I mean, I have to say, the limbs when Burnley scored the winner, when Brownhill put it in, mate, was some of the best scenes I've seen at Vicarage. So fair play. It'll be interesting to get an outside perspective of Watford this season. I know you've tweeted a couple of times about obviously Roy at the weekend, which was, probably the less said about the better. But what have you made of Watford this season from a Burnley perspective?
I mean, to be fair, when it comes to with you guys, I think it's as soon as you guys sacked your manager, you guys brought in Hodgson, I thought that instantly was like, it just kind of made no sense to me as a pure neutral. Like, it just kind of felt like Hodgson was he's in a retirement home. So I kind of just thought just wheeling him out, just kind of felt it was just never bound to work out. And I mean, I feel bad for you guys because it feels like it's just like the same thing happening all over again, and you guys kind of fall in the same kind of path as Norwich almost. That it's almost just trying to compete financially against the Premier League and trying to stick some sort of team together that's got some sort of quality on their day. And it's just so hard, isn't it? You know, that's why like the likes of Norwich and Fulham's and you guys and even Burnley, we're in the same conversation. And Brentford, you know, everyone in the league, 16 clubs in the Premier League has their own that's worth $1 billion. And it's just us lot trying to like compete against the rest here. It's it's an impossible task, man. It's going to get even worse.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Liam, mate, is in terms of and on Burnley, the call to sack Dyche. Now, that was something that Watford have done before, where they've, you know, with 7 games left of the season, they've gone, you know what, look, we're going to make a change. We're going to see if we can get a new managerial bounce. Did you expect Dyche to be sacked? And number two, are you looking back on it with the impact that Mike Jackson's had, thinking that was the right call? Because you've got a great chance of staying up now.
It's really weird because at the time, like the thing is, I don't think the actual sacking itself was really the main issue because we have statistically been the worst team in the last 12 to 18 months. Statistically, like we've got the worst points per game in the entirety of the 92 in the last 12 months. And also statistically in all top 5 leagues, we've got the worst in any attacking area, you know, in terms of chances created, in terms of progressive passes in the final third, in terms of just anything that could actually be helpful and gives you any hope in attacking wise. It's been terrible. So the timing, you know, we've still got no new manager in. And even if we were awful with Mike Jackson, I still don't even think we'll still have a new manager in because they would have no idea about if we're staying up or going down. And if we are going down, that'll make a massive difference on the personnel because most players will be out the door and we'll be selling more suppliers. So I think that Alan Pace, the chairman that made the decision to sack Sean Dyche, is a lucky boy. Like, I don't think anyone can really... either he saw something that was so blatantly obvious that Sean Dyche was clearly making vital mistakes, and maybe that's what's happened here because, I mean, I can't believe it. Like, we got Mike Jackson, who failed at Tranmere Rovers and Shrewsbury Town. This guy hasn't done anything that's tactically masterclass here. He's just told the lads, pass the ball. Literally, that's what he said. He's just like, it's just we're trying to pass the ball shorter and trying to actually play somewhat reasonable football, and that's literally it, and it's working for the time being. You know, 10 points in last 15 available. The Villa loss of the weekend is, you know, it's one of them, but I think you could ask any Burnley fan, they'll think you're going to just absolutely take the mick out of them if you say you're going to go get, you know, wins against Wolves, Southampton, and also you guys. I thought that it was just bound to happen that we're going to lose against you lot. I'm very surprised. But your home record is really bad. I can't believe it, really.
You know, it's one of those, it's been that bad this season that every team that's come to Vicarage Road has been like, oh, we're going to be the team that stops the really bad run. And that's what Everton fans are going into Wednesday.
I just have a quick question as well. Just a quick last question. As a Burnley fan, thoughts on Mateo Vydra? Because I think I saw somewhere, is he injured now as well?
He's got an ACL.
Oh, has he?
Apparently he did it at, well, I saw some tweet, which I think is absolute BS, apparently that he actually had an ACL and still kept playing against you guys and still got the assist. So apparently Vydra, with an ACL, still got an assist against you guys, apparently, which I think is complete BS because there's no way you're playing on with an ACL injury. So I saw that tweet out, but yeah, he's out for probably 6 or 9 months, and I love Vydra. I think that he's actually one of the biggest what-ifs at Burnley. I think he's been massively disrespected. He seems to never get a run of games, and under Sean Dyche, he just never seems to give him a chance. I know he's favoured the likes of Jay Rodriguez ahead of him. So Vydra, you know, you can't score 25 goals in Championship and be awful. And I think that he offers something very different. So I love him to bits, man. And it's an absolute shame because he's had a contract this summer and he's now got an ACL injury. So I really highly doubt, even if we're in a Championship, that we're going to replace him. And sorry, we're going to go off a new contract. So sadly, you know, I really wish that it worked out because I think that he's not really still been given that chance.
Really quick last question, mate. Where's Dyche going to go to next? I think he's on the betting odds, isn't he, Sam, to come back to Watford? I think it's probably unlikely, but in your opinion, where does he go next?
I always feel like, I mean, it probably makes no sense now because they're currently doing well, but I always feel like Dyche and Nottingham Forest has always made sense to me. He's from around the area. He's always, he's been up for 9.5 years. Every couple of months, it's like an international break. He's always outside Nottingham. He's always found outside the ground. He's from the area, you know, and I feel like that was always a link. And that if they were still in Championship, for me, it'll make sense because I think he's actually a personal fan of the club as well. Yeah. He's from around the area. So I always felt like, let's say if Forest goes up this year or not goes, let's say they go up, Cooper gets sacked halfway through the year because that's probably what will happen. And then Dyche could come in then. Or if they don't go up, he may still join there next year. So But for you guys, I'm kind of got about you lot in a sense, because I would rather have you guys down than us, but we may be going down anyway, and we may have a fantastic championship title race next season.
A great, you know what? The one thing about Burnley Turf Moor, been a couple of times, the pies in the away end are top draw, really good.
Yeah, Holland Spies are alright. I've been to Vicarage Road, I think 2 times for like a 0-0 draw and the 2-1 comeback. Not this time, I think 3 years ago. I actually like Vicarage Road quite a bit because I don't know why, it just feels much more. Remember the walk?
We don't. We don't.
Do you guys know? Oh yeah, that's too bad. Your form is awful. Yeah.
Vydra, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for coming on, and all the best for the rest of the season. We're hoping that you stay up, obviously, with the Watford links. But yeah, top man.
Yeah, appreciate it, lads. Enjoy.
Cheers. Take care, mate. See you later. Right, great, cool. What a man. Vydra, top guy. As Charlotte says, before we get on to our next caller, nearly 150 of you watching, which is amazing, but only 11 likes. You know what to do. Hit the like button down below. Subscribe to WD18 as well. Moving on to our next caller, we've got Rudy. If it's the Rudy I know, are you there, mate?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Rudy. How are you doing, mate? It's been a long time. I can't remember the last game I saw you at. It must have been at the start of the season.
Yeah, I think I was obviously at the Brighton game, the game against Brighton. I think I might have saw. Yeah, I think I saw Sam there. I think, yeah. I might have saw you. I think I saw you. I think maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't know it, to anyone who hasn't seen Rudy before, Rudy's a long time interviewee on the channel. He's done a lot of interviews, and make sure you do go and check them out. Rudy's a really, really top guy. Mate, what have you made of this season? We'd just like to get your thoughts on what's happened.
Yeah, I think it's been overall, I think it's been a pretty dismal season. I think, I guess, there's been games, where you've had the high moment. Game against Man United, for example, where we won 4-1, but mostly I think it's been, obviously more downs than ups, really.
Yeah, go on, Sam.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think there definitely has been more downs than ups. Been a really difficult one, and that game that I did see you at, Rudy, it has been, it really wasn't a good one away at Brighton, and it really set the tone for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that game, because obviously the game against Aston Villa, 3-2. I know a lot of people are obviously talking about the sort of the last 20 minutes, and those were the sort of the first signs, really. Sort of 2 goals conceded. But I think, the game against Brighton, was the first game where you felt, have we got what it takes, to survive in the Prem? But obviously, I think the Norwich game, was
Rudy, just looking ahead to next season, buddy, what do you think needs to happen this summer? We've mentioned it a couple of times on the show. We've got some different thoughts, but for you, who needs to stay? Who would you like the next manager to be? Is there anyone you've kept your eye on?
I would say Eustace.
Yeah.
I think, because obviously he's played for the club, and he's got a little bit of experience, from QPR as assistant and caretaker. So he's had a little bit of experience there. So I think he'd be good as a project manager, I'd think, personally.
What does your dad think as well? Is he a fan of Eustace, or is he a fan of someone else?
Oh yeah, he is a fan of Eustace. Yeah, he used to watch him all the times at the game. So yeah, he's a fan favourite.
Yeah, he is. You're absolutely right, Rudy. When I've been watching Watford since 2006, so Eustace joined in 2007 and stayed all the way to 2013. And the one thing I can remember him as a player was he was a fantastic captain, but also personality-wise, he kind of embodied everything that Watford was about. At times probably wasn't the best player we had, but you knew regardless of win, lose or draw, he'd give 110%. And I think he just led by example on and off the pitch. But Rudy, next season, let's get your prediction. I know it's really early, but do you think we've got what it takes to bounce back at the first time of asking, or do you think it will take a couple of years?
I think if we're looking to get the players in that is necessary, then it might potentially take a few years, to build that team ethos. Because I think that's really key. I think that's really.
Oh, don't know what happened there, Rudy. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. It'd be great to have you on again, mate. And take care of yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Pleasure as always, my man. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. It's interesting, isn't it, Sam? Every fan we spoke to so far has said John Eustace as their go-to. Despite not being
definitely. It's a really interesting one. Yeah, it's weird though because of his inexperience, and I thought that fans perhaps would be more reserved with it. Would be more reserved with John Eustace at the start, but it turns out quite a few fans are behind him.
Yeah, interesting. Moving on to, I think, someone you know, Matt Simpson.
How you doing?
How's it going?
Matt, and can we bring Jack at the same time as well? We got the Brummy Orns here.
Oh, mate, love it. Sam, the floor is yours, mate. I know you both know both these guys, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Jack, quality, and Matt as well, as a Bristol Rovers fan, has enjoyed the last few days as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I think I'm just about okay now. Just about recovered. But
Jack, I wanted to throw it over to you first, mate. Just I've seen you at a couple of away games this season. Unfortunately, I don't think it's actually been at a win. But we just wanted to get your. Did you go on Saturday to Palace away?
I did not. Do you know what? I had an absolutely great time. I think that this is like, it's quite different from almost everything you will have heard so far on the show. And aside from all of the Twitter stuff, all of the Facebook groups, I'm so happy. I'm genuinely so happy that we've gone down. It's such a relief. I think that everyone needs to give their heads a bit of a wobble. If we think about kind of where we've come from as a club, I mean, Jacob, you're in a similar situations to me. You know, been following the club for upwards of 10 years now. And, you know, going back to the Eustace days that we were brought up on, I mean, the idea of him coming in as a manager, you know, back in the promised land, which for me is the Championship, it's not the Premier League. I'm really excited for it. And this season's been so painful. I've been to most of the away games with Sam. Matt's come along to quite a few of them as well now. It's been painful. And I think that the sooner that we realise, I mean, everyone's been saying like different points when they realised that we were relegated. The sooner that we all kind of clocked on, I think the better. And, you know, performances like at United or Villa, where you get that glimmer of hope, they're actually really damaging. And I think it's games like Wolves away, Leicester away, you know, where we were really, really bad. And I'm sitting there thinking, do you know what? Get me to the Liberty. You know, I cannot wait for. I'm going to be in Paris.
Liberty or Liberty Stadium.
Honestly, I cannot wait for the Championship. You know, Kenilworth Road's going to be great fun. Hopefully they don't come up because I'm not sure what I'm going to do myself if that does happen. But I am very, very excited for the Championship. I think that our fan base as a whole, as I said, you know, everyone's heads could do with a wobble. A new manager, someone like Eustace, someone that knows the club. I mean, this Hodgson appointment has been the worst, I'd argue, that I've ever seen at Watford.
Jack, I wanted to ask you, just on Hodgson, what did you make of the scenes at full time?
Horrific. I mean, we were all stood at the front, me, Sam, a few other of us, Brummy boys as well. And having had a pretty turbulent 90 minutes, to be honest, there was a bit of dispute between the fans behind us because we were basically just having a good time, kind of taking the mick, and they weren't enjoying themselves. And we've got to this point now where it's like, we just want to enjoy the game and, you know, forget the bad result, forget the fact that we're relegated. It's disgusting what he's done, isn't it? I mean, the excuse that the away fans were too far away, you know, it's just absolutely pathetic. Is it surprising though? No, not at all. I mean, considering how he's been pretty much the whole time since he's come in. I mean, Sam tweets about it every week. You know, he's cold with the media. He's cold with the fans. He sounds like he's cold with the players as well. I mean, that dressing room's an absolute mess, isn't it? I
do think with the players,
it's really disappointing.
I think he's got a bit of a right to be cold with the players, in all fairness to him as well.
Yeah, but what did he say after the game the other day? Was it not? He keeps giving advice that's falling on deaf ears or something like that. And it's
or something like that.
What sort of manager goes and digs out their players like that? In terms of, there's absolutely no leaders in the dressing room in that first place, and then you've got a manager who's coming in and he's basically, you know, going off to the media and saying, "Yeah, the players aren't listening to me, not doing it." Why would players want to fight with someone that's going to, you know, be behaving like that? And
Matt, what have you made of the Hodgson era in general?
I mean, in general, I thought when he came in, I've got to be honest, I thought it looked an okay appointment on paper. And I think I said that to the boys at the time. Look, he's an experienced Premier League manager. It's sort of equivalent to bringing in Sam Allardyce, you know, at the end of the season, which is sort of a stereotypical thing to do. But the whole thing has just been awful to watch. His treatment of the fans has been shocking. And I think the real issue is there's absolutely no leaders in that dressing room. And Roy himself is not someone that, I think we've seen it in person. He's not someone that's going to, make you want to run for a brick wall for the team. And it's just led to a completely flat dressing room where no one seems to care.
Yeah. Jack, I wanted to ask you about, before we look ahead to next season, what do you think the atmosphere will be like on Wednesday? Because I've heard a lot of people, obviously we mentioned at the top of the show, there was a Duxbury Out banner, but some people are saying that they're really going to voice their frustrations at Roy, and that's what they want. They don't want him to be sacked because they're going to give him a piece of their mind. But it'll be interesting to see whether that actually does materialise. What's your predictions for that in terms of the hostility towards him?
Oh, it's going to be hostile, mate. I'm not going to be going. My dad won't be going. I don't think anyone that we sit with particularly wants to go. Do people care enough that they want to go just to voice their frustration at Hodgson? Are we going to do a Liverpool walkout? Are we going to have a massive Wenger out parade? Is someone going to carry a coffin round? No, probably not. I mean, it's little old Watford. We've had some pretty poor managers recently. If I was in London, maybe I would go and I'd go and stand at the front and I'd boo at him. Does he care? No, he's got a fat paycheck. This isn't really going to tarnish his career. He's had a pretty decent one. And he obviously doesn't care. I think it's a shame, especially with Ray Lewington and his connections to the club as well. I think it's really disappointing, the lack of engagement with the fans, because they really could have come in and got us on side, especially after, a decent run of games. We really had a chance to, make something happen. And so I was really disappointed that it's gone out the way that it has. But yeah, in terms of the atmosphere on Wednesday, I don't know if, Sam, are you going to go down for it?
Yeah, Jack, I was going to say there's a spare seat next to me on the train if you want to.
Unreal. Unfortunately, I won't be taking you up on that.
Is that London West Midland?
It's an Avanti West Coast, actually.
I feel like Francis Bourgeois.
Do you know what? I am excited for it though, because I'm in hospitality, and I think the seats
here he is. Here he is. He goes to hospitality.
He's next to Scott Duxbury, I reckon.
No,
he's got his prawn sandwich, throwing them at Roy.
I was gonna say actually the hospitality seats I think are pretty much right next to the director's box, so I should get a good view pretty much of have a look to see if any reactions from Scott Duxbury or Gina or whoever's there. So it'll be interesting.
They didn't even go to Palace. Do you know what? I've only gone to the away games. I've gone back for the big home games this season because it is ridiculously expensive, and especially considering how bad the performances have been. But I think this is the whole point. I mean, we as a group of boys, it's probably about 10 of us, we have had to concentrate. We've so focused it on just enjoying the day because the football has been so woeful. There's been nothing to cheer about. And so when we've got people behind us saying, cheer positively, stop criticizing team. I mean, Sam nearly got in a fight at Everton away because he was booing the players when we were 1-0 down. He didn't actually get in a fight, by the way.
Yeah,
I didn't actually get in. Just a disclaimer, I didn't get in a fight.
We've been told off a couple of times for it. I mean, at Wolves away, I got shouted at because I started singing the goal music when we went 4-0 down. And our fans are never going to get on. And obviously, there's a bit of a split between that older generation and the younger generation. And I think that it is really sad that it's had to be the case that we've been sitting in the pub before the game, just not looking forward to the game. Like Sam will literally say, or I'll say, or a couple of our other boys, we don't want to go because we don't enjoy the football. We want to go for the atmosphere. And you know what? I didn't think I'd ever say this. Hats off to Crystal Palace because the atmosphere that they gave us in the concourse, they had a DJ on, an unbelievable playlist. I had an unreal time before the match.
I can also confirm, by the way, because we mentioned it a few videos ago from the fancy dress on the last day. Me and Matt are going as Harry the Hornet on the last day of the season.
Love it. Matt, before we let sorry, go on, mate.
I think Roy might try come fight us if we do, but
unbelievable. Matt, before we and Jack, before we let you go, I'll throw this one over to you, Matt, first. Just in terms of next season, what do you think needs to be done, in your opinion, whether that's trying to get promotion at the first time of asking, whether that's trying to get stability? What, in your opinion, needs to happen at Watford over the next couple of months?
Right. I think the first thing is a massive clear out. cash in on players like Dennis, King, Sarr. It doesn't matter how good players they are; they've not shown any fight. They're not really the right people to have in the dressing room. Any other players? I mean, Cleverley in particular has to go. He must be earning an unbelievable wage. And to me, he's not good enough. Maybe not even for the championship. There's a lot of talk about bringing young players through. I'm not massively behind the hype about Hungbo. I think from what I've seen, I watched a bit of Scottish football as well. He looks like a pretty average player at Ross County. I appreciate he's young and all, but it's not a massive level. And if he's not really excelling there, is he really ready to step up into the first team? I'm not sure. I think after that, you've got to bring in a manager who's young, who's ambitious, someone who's willing to work on a project. Could be a hard sell with the reputation that Duxbury and the Potsos have. Ideally, Duxbury goes, but maybe I'm pushing it a little bit there. And then, bring in players that are, young, trying to work their way up. Players like, one I've been saying for a long time is Scott Twine. I think it's sort of coming on everyone else's radar now. Now MK Dons have confined to League One again for a season. I think everyone knows that Scott Twine's going to go. And the other one, I said this to the other boys a while ago, Elliot Anderson. I've been watching at Bristol Rovers all season, and I've never seen such a technically gifted young player. And I wouldn't say this if I didn't genuinely believe it. I think he's genuinely ready to play in the Championship next season. He can skip straight over League One.
Love it. Jack, as Matt says, manager-wise, who's your pick? We're throwing that a question over to everyone today, but the general consensus has been Eustace.
Eustace would be great. I'd be in dreamland. I absolutely love the guy. I remember, was it his goal at Bristol City away? He scored an unreal goal. Matt would have been happy with that one. Do you know what? I've been thinking about it quite a lot. Someone I couldn't think of anything worse than bringing a Chris Hughton. If you look at some of the project managers, there's been quite a few, and I know there's been a lot of chat about Russell Martin, the job that he's doing at Swansea. To be honest, I'm not fussed, so long as it's someone that is better than what we've had recently. I don't want them to bring back someone we've already had, so a Javi, a Kike, an Ivic, a Xisco. As fun as it would be having, say, Javi as your manager, Xisco as the assistant. Again, dreamland. We'd all love it, right? I think Eustace would be a good shout. I just want someone that can get the fans back on side, unite the fan base, and really inspire a young dressing room, because as everyone's been saying, we really, really need a clear out. And it needs to be someone that is able to inspire this young generation of footballers that we've got so that they come good. And to be honest, unlike last season, I don't think we're going to go straight back up. I think that we're going to have to properly rebuild as a football club, really kind of, as I keep saying, giving our heads a wobble, remembering where we've come from, rebuild that culture. And a lot of it's down to the Potsos. They gave us this whole flashy, right, we can bring in 15 loan players in our first season, we'll get a playoff final, we'll bring in some good managers, and we'll go up in a couple of years. That's not going to happen this time. And even though I reckon the quality of the Championship's probably gone down in the last couple of years, we're not going to come straight back up. That's probably wishful thinking. And I'd really like to see someone come in that is going to nurture these young players. Someone I know Matt was saying that Elliot Anderson's the best, technically gifted player he's ever seen. João Pedro is that player. And if we can keep hold of him and we can get a manager that can get a system going, he could easily go for something like Vydra or Bamford's records that they had on their, 5 seasons in the Championship.
Love it. Boys, been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on. We've got to get you back on again. Sam, any final words to Bromley Orns?
Well, Matt, I think I'm seeing you tomorrow. Jack, I think I'm seeing you tomorrow as well. I'll see you tomorrow then.
It was literally it was a Ucko Appreciation Society. We've got a Ucko enthusiast. We've got the Bromley Orns in the live chat. Absolutely love it. Lads, take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, John.
It was a great show.
Top man. Cheers. Oh, brilliant. Right, we've got to bring on Taylor because he's been waiting for a while. Let's just add him in. Taylor, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, you?
Yeah, very good. Sorry for the wait. Thanks so much for coming on. Were you there at the game on Saturday, or did you give it a miss? What did you make of it on Saturday?
I didn't see much of the game. More party atmosphere,
Yeah.
I don't want to say giving up on the team, but
I thought you were going to say you didn't see a lot of the game because there was a pole in front of you in the away end.
No, luckily I wasn't originally at the back, but I had a...
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you about this, mate. Where's it gone wrong in your opinion? Some people have blamed it on the board. Some people have blamed it on just the quality of players, the change of the manager. Where do you think it's gone wrong this season?
I don't think it is the quality of players. You know, we've got multiple winners in the squad. Dennis has got 16 odd goal contributions. You've got Sissoko, who's played for France like nearly 100 times. I want to aim it at the board, to be honest. I think.
In what way? Is that in terms of what, recruitment, or in terms of just manager sackings?
Yeah, it's got to be around managers. You know,
okay.
When he first came in, I thought, you know, we've got a good chance here because of what he's done. You know, how he kept Palace up all them years with just getting on players, as in just veterans. And I thought, you know, he could get something out of the squad with Ray as well, you know, having his Watford connections. But it's just gone sour, really.
Yeah, it has. In terms of what happens next for us, we mentioned it a couple of times, but what do you think needs to happen, and who would you bring in as manager, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I would love Rooney.
Rooney, okay.
Yeah, that would be the goal, but obviously it looks as though the board are aiming it at Eustace.
What is it about Rooney that you particularly like, and what he's done at Derby?
Just how he's done, you know, how he's put some fight in the players, which is what we need, because how they've had, 21 points, and still they gave a good fight at relegation, more of a fight than we put up.
Yes, very true.
You know,
sorry, go on.
I've got a quick question for you, Taylor, mate, because I see the Norway flag behind you. Do you think? I mean, we've spoken about players coming and going. A player who has been spoken about recently, last couple of days, quite a bit, is Josh King. Actually, do you think Josh King's got a role to play next season?
I do. I like Josh King. When he first came in, you know, he didn't really have the service them first couple of games, and I thought his hold-up play was very, very good. And then I think it was Leeds away when he got injured, and it sort of went a bit stale after that. But recently, I think it was Man City away when we lost. Was it 5-1? I was there. All the players were just walking off, but he was the one who called them all back. You know, come thank the fans, and he did. He got all the players around. You know, he gave me this.
Oh, class!
Love it,
mate. Love that.
I do think he's got a role next season. Him, João Pedro, you know, Cucho as a front three, add Zinkernagel for a 4. You know, we've got a decent attack in the Championship, but it's just about shoring up that defence and the home form.
100%, and who your next manager is. It's interesting when we King Sam, because I think from what I read from Adam Leventhaal's article that he's got a relegation clause, hasn't he, in his contract? Yeah. So that'll be, and Sissoko as well. I think they're the two that have relegation clauses, and Dennis gets his wages completely slashed when we go down. So it's just, I think Watford have to sell, don't they? So Taylor, who do you see going out the door this summer? Who could you see leaving from the current squad?
I think we got to get rid of older players. So obviously Foster's going to go.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. I like Kabasele, but you know he is getting on a bit. Cleverly as well. I don't like what I've seen from Cleverly this season. Kiko as well. I know it's a tough one because I do like Kiko, but this season, persistent injuries, you know, he's getting on a bit. I'd like to see Ngakia start in the Championship.
Interesting. Sam, what do you make of those shouts from Taylor?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think certainly, you know, there is real promise, I think, with certain players we've got coming back, particularly from loan spells. But I do also think that a clear out is needed. Josh King is one I'm undecided on, because I think he's a player who probably is built for the Championship, isn't he? He's probably ready. I mean, not ready for it, but he's probably would be better in the Championship. So it's definitely an interesting one. Are you going on Wednesday night? Love that. Okay, so hopefully it'll be a good 3 points so we can stop the this 11-game winning run.
Taylor, before you go, how are you going into these last 3 games as a fan? You know, you go home and away. Is it basically just turning up because you love the club, or is it just a case of are you going to try and enjoy it in some way possible?
Yeah, I've been all over the country this season. You know, I've been Burnley away twice,
mate.
The game got cancelled as we turned up.
Fair play.
Yes, I just got to enjoy it now. You know, your dad got nothing to play for. Go to football, your mates, enjoy it.
I love it. And just lastly, mate, what do you think the reception will be like on Wednesday? Because we've seen quite a bit online about the atmosphere is going to be pretty aggressive or toxic. I hate using that word, but people are saying that it's going to get a little bit. Yeah, it's going to be hostile. What do you make of that?
That's the word, hostile. It will be a hostile atmosphere, but it is what it is. You know, Roy, I don't want to say deserves it because, you know, he's had a good career, but the way he's treated the fans and Saturday, what he said after the game about the fans being too far away, I thought that was just disrespectful. Like, you gave the Palace fans a clap, come over and give us a clap.
Yeah, very fair. Very fair. Taylor, thank you so much for coming on, mate. We'd love to get you back on again. And we'll have a good one on Wednesday. Try to have a good one on Wednesday anyway. Top man. Yeah. Cheers, mate. See you later. What a guy. Great, cool. You know what? We've got one more caller just to wrap it up on. Thank you to everyone who's watched today. It's been absolutely fantastic to get so many of you on and so many of you involved in the live chat. We've got Uncle Ron. Now, Uncle Ron's been famous for his Twitter space opinions. Uncle, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me, gentlemen?
We can hear you. Thank you very much for coming on. Pleasure to have you on. Floor is yours. Take it away. What have you made of the show so far? Or have you been listening? And what are the points that you'd like to make?
No, I have been listening. I think... hold on. I'm sorry. I've got my 2-year-old with me.
Oh, bless.
I think everyone's been far too kind. I think Roy Hodgson humiliated everyone on Saturday. He humiliated the Watford fans. The final whistle blew. He's smiling, hugging the Crystal Palace players, clapping them. I don't know how the Watford fans there tolerated it. They should have been booing. I mean, Sam, were you there at the game?
I was, yeah.
What was the reaction at the end of the game? Were the players applauded? Were they booed? Was Hodgson applauded?
Listen, I'm one that when we are relegated, I know this is I think it's the first time I've ever seen us relegated live. I said to myself before I wouldn't boo at full time because I think for me, I'm bearing in mind that these players are also human beings. And I think that when you go through a career, I don't want to say milestone, but the opposite of that really. When you're going through a career difficulty like that, I don't think needing to boo players. I think they need our support more than anything else. To be honest with you, Roy Hodgson's never clapped the fans, so I think most fans just saw it as sort of didn't come over. No one saw from the away end that he'd gone over and clapped the Palace fans.
Uncle, I think your daughter doesn't like Roy Hodgson.
My son.
Oh, your son.
No, he doesn't like Roy Hodgson. But on Wednesday, now you know what Roy Hodgson did. He should be booed onto the field. He should have rotten fruit and vegetables thrown. I'll say near him. I'm not advocating any violence. Near at his feet, right? Not at him. But it doesn't matter how old he is. It was disgusting what he did. And I'm sorry, people who are saying Scott Duxbury has to go. If you don't listen to me, you can listen to Adam Leventhal, who's a very respected journalist. And Jacob, I think you said that you read the article. The final football decisions rest with Gino Pozzo, and getting rid of Duxbury will make no difference to on-field matters. Until, I've said it on my Twitter space, it's Gino Pozzo that's the problem.
So Ron, in that respect, do you feel that Watford fans are aiming their frustration at the wrong people? Or the wrong person?
Definitely.
Be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for.
Oh, I don't understand that, Sam. I mean, I was there under Bassini and Pecci, and we never lost 11 home league games under them.
Yeah, but we're in the Premier League, and we just had 5 years in the Premier League, got to an FA Cup final.
But we've been in the Premier League under other owners, and we never lost 11 home games.
Yeah, but but in terms of modern football, with all the money in there, we never had a sustained period of time.
Well, there was quite a lot the last time we were there under AD Boothroyd, but
we were in there for one season.
Ron, one. Sorry, just to jump in here. One thought that some fans who I've spoken to have said is they're not Potso out. They're Potso very much changed the way they're doing things, because if they say Potso out, that suggests that there's a better alternative or a viable alternative. Do you understand that point of view? And what would you make of those people who are saying that I'm not going to say Potso out until there's a better option on the table? Because at the minute there probably isn't.
Well, if he completely changes his ways, if he gets rid of the Mogi Buyer influence, if he hires a manager currently employed, we start bringing in people like Scott Twine, those sort of players rather than Kalu, then sure. But I think unless it happens in the close season, then everyone has got to demand that he sells the club. I mean, how much more time will you give it? I mean, surely this is the last chance if you're saying that. I'm saying club should be sold now, but if you're saying give it more time, how much more time would you give?
Well, Adam in the comment section says not Potso out. Need to change the way with the hire and fire situation.
I'm gonna have to go. I have to look after him. But thank you for having me on.
Ron, thank you very much for coming on. Take care of yourself, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye bye. Interesting. A very different view to what we've seen before. Bless his son as well. HJ in the comment section. He says, "I'm late to this, but well said, Sam. Be careful what you wish for. Potso's go. Who know who they would sell to?" And we've had plenty of owners, as Ron mentioned, a few of those owners who have put us in very, very difficult and worrying situations. And thankfully, we haven't been in that situation under the Potso. So, and also how far they brought the club. But that doesn't mean we can't question them. I think we're just going to bring. Is Noah still there? Can we bring Noah back in just to wrap up?
I think he's just there.
Noah,
get a score prediction from him.
No, you open the show. You're closing the show. We want to get your score prediction for Wednesday. What's your prediction? Who's gonna win and who's gonna score?
I think we're losing. I think 3-1.
3-1.
I know. I think the players will give a good fight. I think because they know that Hodgson's going at the end of the season, so I think they're going to really try and hopefully really try and give them a chance to put themselves in the running for a place in the team next season. But I think we might struggle.
Will you be there on Wednesday night?
No, I don't think so. No.
Fair enough.
Do you know what, Noah? I can't blame you, mate. It's been that long of a season, and you've been there through thick and thin. That I think you're excused from this one. Finally, Noah, can you close out the show for us? Like, comment, subscribe to WD18. Can you do that for us?
No problem.
Go on, mate.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to WD18. Come back next time.
Love it.
Love to see it.
Thank you very much, Noah. It's been a pleasure to have you on, buddy. As Noah says, leave a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe to WD18. Thanks to everyone who watched tonight, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.